Informal Reading Inventory. What is an IRI? An Informal Reading Inventory, IRI, is used to help determine a child's reading levels. This assessment consists of oral and silent reading passages. The child is usually tested on reading comprehension of factual information, inferential information, and word meanings. Administering an IRI. First, in order to determine which level a child is on, there are graded word lists with about 20 to 25 words from each level. The student should start with a word list that is 2 grades below his or her current grade level. The student reads through the list, and the last grade level that the student has no mistakes on the word list is the grade level that the teacher begins with when assessing the student. Administering an IRI. The student reads the passage out loud, and then the teacher takes note of the different mistakes the student makes. The teacher then asks reading comprehension questions on the passage. The student then reads the passage silently, and the teacher asks him or her reading comprehension questions. This is then done at a higher reading level. The levels get higher and higher until the student starts to get frustrated. When this happens, the teacher reads passages out loud and then asks questions to test listening comprehension. Uses of an IRI. It is very helpful to teachers because it is a diagnostic aid. A teacher can use it to determine the level of reading a child is at. Teacher can know the different levels when a child's reading is either independent, instructional, or frustrational. This assessment is also useful because the teacher can check a child's reading and listening comprehension. Teacher can also assess a student's strong points and weaknesses so that the teacher can then design proper instruction to help the child with his or her weaknesses. I administered an IRI to Samuel, who just finished first grade. He is 6 years old. He's a friendly boy who is well liked by his peers. He comes from an English-speaking house. He generally does very average in school, but when it came to reading, he seems to have a little bit of a hard time. Samuel seemed very shy at first, but I assured him that this is not a test. I told him he would be helping me out with my homework if he read a few paragraphs to me and answered some questions, which put him more at ease. Even then, he still seemed nervous to be reading out loud. I asked him some questions about reading. He said he thought he was an okay reader. He said he did not mind reading a book by himself, but he did not like to read out loud. At home, he said he would rather play than read books. This is a summary of my IRI. On the graded word list by pre-primer, he got 2 out of 20 wrong, primer 4 out of 20 wrong, and first grade 7 words out of 20 wrong. With the oral reading, pre-primer, he got 4 words wrong out of 64, but his comprehension was 100%. Silent reading, his comprehension was only 84%. Primer, when he read, he got 7 words wrong out of 76. His reading comprehension was only 75%, but by the silent reading is even lower, 62.5%. First grade, when he was reading, he got 11 words wrong out of 88. His reading comprehension was only 40%, and his silent reading comprehension was even lower at 20%. When I read the passage to him, his reading comprehension was 70%. On the second grade level, it was only 60%, and the second grade level later on in the year for spring was 40%. The IRI, the word recognition inventory, the graded word list began at pre-primer. The oral reading began at pre-primer. His independent level was on pre-primer, his instructional level was primer, and frustration level was first grade for the oral reading. For the silent reading, his independent level was pre-primer, the instructional level was pre-primer, primer, and his frustration level was first grade. The listening capacity level was first grade, maybe second grade, the first second grade by the fall. Word analysis, the areas he needs to work on: double consonants, the digraphs, long vowel sounds, double vowel sounds like EA, OU. Structural analysis, the areas to work on are suffixes and compound words. Special notes on strengths and weaknesses. Samuel needs help in reading so he can catch up to his peers. Although he does make some connections, in many cases, especially when reading to himself, he lacks basic comprehension. He also needs to be taught specific sounds and word recognition strategies. Comments on his behavior during testing. Samuel does not seem to like to read out loud, therefore he tries to read as quickly as possible, so he ends up stumbling over words and missing other words. Recommendations. Samuel needs to be taught to read slower and pay more attention to all the words and each letter in the words. He can be taught this by teaching him word recognition strategies. He should also be taught more about how to understand what he's reading and how to pinpoint the main ideas of the story. Long-term objectives. Samuel will know to read long vowel sounds, double vowels, digraphs, and compounds. When Samuel comes across an unknown word, he'll be able to decode it. Samuel will be able to answer reading comprehension questions on a first grade level.